No, before we begin, um, one thing that one thing that I've noted over the past few months, let's say, over the past few months, we have been witnessing, not months, past few years, we've been witnessing disaster. What the fuck? What the? Oh, we have been witnessing disaster when it comes to video games, right? Why? So many video games that I don't want to say I've played. I've played a lot. God of War. Um, this one for ninjas. What's the name? Okay. Over the past few years, video games that I've played, man, some you get to see. I'ma get to realize that this thing isn't like there's something missing or there's something wrong. There's something that is making me not want to um let's say play this. Let me say watch this. Making me not want to play this. Yeah. And one thing that I even noted, yeah, since we finished the year 2000s on the PlayStation, there's no split screen games. So most of the games that are there are more in the lines of single player. And if you're playing multiple players, you have to be online. Yeah, this is something that if you started playing games back in the 2000s to the 2010s, now we are past mid 2020s. It's like most of the games have gone. If you want to play multiplayer, there's no split screen. You just have to play with other people who have similar gadgets. So it's like most of the games that going forward people will be playing will be in the lines of for lack of a better word, you need to have a strong gadget to play, or you just venture into the old games. On that, there has been many remakes on games. The remakes have been so many to the point that I myself am like, you guys don't come up with new games. Where's all the money going? Where are you guys spending the money? Anyways, this has nothing to do with what I've just said. What I've just said will come up maybe in a later video. For this one to be more precise, this is more of why the video games we've been playing recently have become the way they have become. What happened? Yeah.
Usually, when someone speaks about how somebody changed video games, you think of names like Hideo Kojima, Hironobu Sakaguchi, or maybe Hidetaka Miyazaki. Then there's the
Yeah. As you've noted, all the names that he's mentioned are coming from the east, right? Now, those people who he's mentioned, maybe going forward, I'll be googling so that the people who don't understand what I'm talking about can actually get to understand what I'm talking about. And why is this thing still showcasing like my camera is still? Anyways, I digress. Um, for anyone who's been playing video games and all that, yeah. Um, maybe you're not someone who goes in depth and sees who made changes in the industries of the video games and whatnot. But there are people out here who actually go in depth, go and see why and how these things were influenced and how did I get to where I'm currently. So yeah, for the next like 10 to 20 videos, I'll not be using the mic. I think my cable ripped and I'm lazy to go out, so I'll be using the laptop's mic. Then maybe in a week's time, I'll go get a cable for the mic that I'm currently using. It will make my life and your life so much easier. But for now, I hope this one is very audible. Anyways, let's continue.
people whose names cause nothing but disdain when you hear it, like Anita Sarkeesian. And I want to talk about Anita today.
So yeah, as you can see,
Cause nothing but disdain when you hear it, like Anita Sarkeesian.
he's explicitly mentioned Anita Sarkeesian. a feminist frequency, executive director of feminist frequency. So, from my small knowledge on Anita, she never grew up playing games. She grew up like the way women grow up, yeah. The way you don't expect a good number of women growing up to be watching football or playing football, video games, maybe if they have been influenced just a tad bit. I don't expect her to be watching Formula One or basketball, maybe up until they get to a bit later in their years. Yeah, they don't have interest in that. She's been having interest in other things. So later in life, she developed a quote unquote interest in video games. You'll understand why I said quote unquote videos, interest in video games as we go on. So it just so happened that she had some influence in video games that have not been so helpful, let me say. Because as we speak currently, the video games that are actually breaking bank, people are enjoying, they're coming from the West. Not the West, the East. I apologize. The East. The East. These guys are making video games for the people who actually play video games, not to please a specific, you know what I'm talking about.
And I want to talk about Anita today, who she is, where she comes from, and how this one single woman made it her mission to completely ruin and destroy the entire gaming industry using her avenue of feminism in gaming that has been so catastrophic that it's led to the complete upheaval and destruction of modern video games as we all know it. This, my dear viewers, is the story of Anita Sarkeesian, the woman who ruined the video games industry.
Apart from the video game industry, I was talking to a friend of mine. A friend of mine watches anime the way I watch anime. Sadly, the anime that she watches are the anime that I watch. The anime that I watch are made for guys like me. Guys between the age of 15 to 50. Yeah, that's what I watch. She's watching what I watch. Like I said, she is not a guy. She might be between the age of 15 to 50, but she's not a guy. She was telling me this animes or this, yeah, it's specifically anime. She was in the lines of this anime, I don't resonate with it to that extent because I feel like they've exaggerated boobs, the figure of these women, and so many other stuff, right? The authors of whichever anime, manga, manhwa, whichever you decide to read or watch, they made it for guys between the age of 15 to 50. But you're not a guy between that age set. And you venture into that. What do you expect you will find? Yes, there are manga animes that were not made for guys within that age bracket. Yes, they aren't as famous. But the moment you change that, it's the moment you start having downfalls. Because these people who are not there, or the anime or the video games weren't made for them, is the moment you lose, because those are the people, they're the day ones, they're the ones who actually make or made it famous, right? So once you divert from them, you're technically ruining it. You're ruining it.
Anita was born in Toronto, Canada, to a pair of immigrants that were Iraqi Armenians. She would eventually move to California in her teenage years and went to school for a bachelor's in communication studies. Eventually, she would get a master's in social and political thought from York University, with her thesis.
So technically, she's a political scientist with a master's in political science, right? So one thing that you'll realize, she brought her politics into video games, where you're supposed to go to play a video game to enjoy yourself, to have fun. Yeah, it's not supposed to be something like all big, something like I don't know, out of this world. You're just supposed to go there, enjoy yourself, then maybe use some of your time, then know what to do next, right? That is the whole essence of how I've been. Maybe you can learn, yeah, because there are video games actually you go and learn while you're playing or get to enjoy a story. It's just in the lines of that. That's what I've always been about while playing video games while growing up, yeah. Be it betrayals, be it plotting, be it whatever you call it. That's how I grew up with video games.
On I'll Make a Man Out of You, Strong Women in Science Fiction, and Fantasy Television. Oh boy, here we go. After going to school, Anita decided that she wanted to use her unique brand of insufferable feminism to grift her way into an industry in order to make money. This led to her landing on the concept of consulting. She decided to spearhead through a non-profit organization and site that she would create called Feminist Frequency. Yes, that's the name of it. I am not kidding. This site was created in 2000.
To be honest, name so unoriginal, but the fact that she got that much airtime, like people just opened the ears for her, considering she publicly claimed that she didn't know squat about video games. Like, you don't know shit about video games. Kabisa, kabisa. You don't know anything about video games. You did not grow up playing video games. Never played Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, World War. You didn't play any of that. You never played Def Jam. You didn't even play Most Wanted or even Underground. You didn't grow up with Need for Speed Carbon. Never played Micro Machine. Like, there's so many games that you could have grown up playing. You didn't touch. Like, you don't know anything about this. But you are supposed to be a consultant to gaming companies, the companies that are making games in the West. Wow.
Anita would critique popular media through her feminist lens, and she would unironically use certain ways to see if the media she was critiquing could pass the feminism quizzes that she would create. One of these methods that Anita would use is the Bechdel test, which is hilariously on brand for Anita to use so many years removed now. And if you don't know what the Bechdel test is, it's named after the person who invented it, who was Alison Bechdel. It is a test that checks the representation of women in media. It checks to see that if in, say, a film or TV show, if two women actually speak to one another in the media being tested without the presence of a man. So the Bechdel test would become famous, I guess.
So you're telling me a test was created, the Bechdel test. So the purpose of this test is to see if we have women in a video game or whichever, a movie, there's two women just talking. That is the purpose of the test. Women representation in media, that's what it's called, right? So because this woman is in whichever media, because they have communicated, yeah, the test is passed because there is no man in the background. That is bollocks. What do you mean? Two women just conversing. It can be as pointless as possible in matters regarding a video game, a movie, whatever. It can be a pointless conversation. It's not driving the story. It's not conversion about anything. It could just be pointless. But as long as there's a woman there, then the test is passed. Make it make sense.
As a way for creators in media to determine if their work was sexist or not. What's fun here is that Bechdel has openly admitted that this test that she created was nothing more than a joke and was never actually.
It's even worse. That was just a joke. Okay? Funny how that joke, the gaming companies took it very seriously. Like, very seriously. I remember when my boy got this game. What was Horizon Dawn? What was Horizon Dawn? Where the main character is a woman. So we are going throughout whatever. Yeah? Anyone who's played Horizon Dawn knows that. Horizon, throughout my years, has never been like that. It wasn't that bad, I have to admit. But anyone who's played Horizon knows what I'm talking about. Anyone knows what I'm talking about. They could have done better. It sucked. Turns out it was because Anita had an influence. Just because Anita had an influence. Anyways.
Meant to be taken seriously. It was just something she did as a funny with her lesbian friends, okay? But because media at the time was so pressed to see more inclusive and fostering towards, female representation in media, the Bechdel test was taken seriously, despite, again, the creator telling everybody, no guys, it's actually a joke. But anyways, Anita Sarkeesian was one of these people who still believed the Bechdel test was the gold standard, and it's hilariously on brand that this test was actually a joke all along. Because all you're going to see from the rise of feminism in video games under Anita here, it rose like Icarus to the sun, and then it burned almost immediately. So anyways, back to the lore, she took her feminist frequency show idea and then
because considering my experience playing games, I can't remember a game that I just saw, or even a movie, that it's just two women just talking, regardless if it's driving the story forward or not. I can't recall.
Expanded it, eventually in 2011 creating a video series called Tropes vs. Women. As you would expect, the show was just another grifting attempt to understand how women were treated in various forms of media. Eventually, Anita would take her feminism critiques and expand it by getting gigs to speak at universities to students who were getting degrees in women's studies. She would use this opportunity to talk about how women were treated in pop culture to then further her agenda. After all of this, eventually, Anita would get her way into video games, where she would irredeemably ruin the entire fabric of games going forward for everyone. And the developer that allowed Anita to speak on female representation to get her way into the industry was none other than...
On that, whichever developer, to be honest, the fact that regardless if it's video games, movies, wherever, regardless if we are in the year 2026 and Trump won, saying that the other side lost, the amount of influence that was there the past 10 years, it's irredeemable. Okay, I want to say it's irredeemable. Yes, it might be redeemable, but the time it will take, I think the games that we'll be getting from the East will be so much better. And the West can't really admit this. They can't admit this. Because how will they start? The way, for example, the way Iran and Israel and USA have been trying so hard to showcase how they are taking W's. But from the moment they started, they talked about regime change. None has occurred. They've talked about, we are winning this war. We've obliterated Iran. But the rest of the world are facing the issues because the US couldn't. Anyways, I digress.
Bungie. Yeah, the Halo, Destiny, and Marathon people, yes, they were Anita's in this entire time, the ground zero, if you will. Inspired by her ability to speak to Bungie's employees, this would allow Anita to start her true grift into the world of video games proper, and where this house of cards that was once a male hobby would be irredeemably changed for the worse to such a degree that we are still fighting the damage that Anita and her ilk created all that time ago. This would eventually lead to Anita, now supercharged by her platform that was given to her by Bungie, to start a new chapter. She realized just how lucrative and untapped the potential was in modern video game development.
So, number one, kudos to Anita. Why? She saw an opportunity and took it. Yes, it's ruined our lives for the worse, not for the better. But the fact that she grasped the opportunity and decided to move forward with it, kudos to her. I kid you not. But on the other hand, F it. F it. F her as well. Because tell me why I have to suffer and get to see some weird ass movies, even the Spider-Man that came out, where Spider-Man was constantly being saved by Miles and MJ. It's Spider-Man. It's not Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse or something, because Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, that's specifically Miles. Okay, he's the main character, but the main Spider-Man, it's supposed to be Peter Parker. Peter Parker is supposed to be the guy saving the day. So tell me why I buy to play Spider-Man, and while I'm playing, I think it's Spider-Man 2. I don't know, the recent one before the one that's actually there. You play the game, Peter Parker is constantly being saved by Miles and MJ. Miles and MJ. Yeah, they're trying to paint him with all the character flaws. Miles has no character flaws. It sucks, man. It sucks. Why would I go to play as Peter, then end up being saved by MJ and Miles? If I want to be saved by Miles, I'd like a game that is Miles Morales as the main character. But anyways, let me not vent.
Because no one like her really existed in this space yet. Everywhere she looked, she would see things how lucrative and untapped the potential was in modern video game development, because no one like her really existed in this space yet.
Okay, I like that point. No one like her really existed in the space yet. This kind of like when I'm having a conversation with guys. I get people get frustrated when they hear, this is specifically in Kenya, when they hear, oh, Andrew Kibe has said this, Andrew Kibe has done this, oh, Amerix this, Amerix that. These are the two people currently in the country who have made so much noise, capitalized in the space that they are because they saw potential in that space. So these people are smart enough to take advantage of the situation that is or was currently at their hand to build whatever it is that they were building. So if they were the only ones there, and those are what people actually got a hold of, you can't blame them. You could consider them a necessary evil. Sadly, for video games, it's not like Andrew Kibe or this other guy, Amerix. It's not the same. Why? At least for them, you can have maybe some people say, nah, he said this, I'm not down for that. Like, you can have people having different opinions. But for this, Sarkeesian was the only person who was making noise in that sector. So a good number of the video game companies just listened to her with no other different sets of opinions.
Where she looked, she would see things that she thought needed change, right? Men were on the cover art, men in studios making video games for a male demographic, women usually in support roles, overwhelmingly so that the majority of the now bustling.
Yes, it should be like that, because why will you tell a woman to make a game for men and that specific person does not know what men want? Why would you? Okay, I am a 15-year-old to an 18-year-old boy. I want to see guns, I want to see boobies, ass, maybe Latinas, goth girls, Asian girls. I want to be the hero. I want to be like, it's my fantasy that I want to see revealed. I am lonely. I want to feel wanted. I want to be a hero. Does that even register for women, to be honest? Does it register? Do women want to feel like heroes? Do they want to see guns? Do they want to see, like, do they really even enjoy that? Is that their go-to, like their first thing that they decide to go to? That is something that I would really like to sit down, have a conversation with women about. But one thing that I'm certain of, from what I've understood on women, the good majority of them, they don't think about being in a room with uh, 10, 15 men just surrounding her. Yeah, that is not their go-to fantasy.
Billion-dollar empires that were being built about men by men for men. But that was not good enough for Anita Sarkeesian. Oh, no. So naturally, how do you change a culture from within? Well, you simply infiltrate it. This would lead to Anita starting her Kickstarter campaign, which was the poisoning of the well, that was called Tropes versus Women in Video Games. It would be a YouTube video series where Anita Sarkeesian would go through the representation of women in video games at the time. She would request money to help her fund this series, which makes zero sense to someone like me who makes content. After all, it does not take that much money to make some videos. I mean, you're watching this video right now, aren't you? In Anita's case, she would end up receiving an eye-watering $159,000 in.
If you give someone in my country that amount of money, they don't need to work anymore. They can sort out their family. They can invest it. They can, if they're smart enough, they can be set for life. And if they get lucky with like 2 proper investments, they just start businesses, start companies, whatnot, because that's a lot of cash.
Kickstarter funds to create her series, which is way more money than what's ever needed to write and produce the series that she was creating here, by the way. But grifters are gonna grift, as they would say, and these videos would release on the Feminist Frequency YouTube channel from 2013 to 2017. Overall, the series would result in 18 episodes that would get produced. I watched some of them.
So you're telling me all that money for 12 episodes, and you're the sole producer, writer? I don't know. There's someone who does automation videos. He spent 50K per year, made so much good videos in comparison to whatever Anita did. I'm certain about that.
These are, how do I say this? They're not very professionally made videos, let's just put it that way. And I've seen many a YouTuber create far more professional looking content, almost on the daily, may I add, to what Anita was able to produce with the entire video games industry backing her with a team of people also helping her out. It was so obvious that Anita was just doing this on the fly and was hoping that nobody would notice that she didn't really know what she was talking about. Of course, though, Anita would tell her fans that supported her that she grew up playing video games, loved them, and wanted what was best for them. But it turned out, however, that wasn't true. When a clip of Anita was unsurfaced where she spoke to students and she openly admitted, well, watch this.
I'm going to show you a remix that I just finished this weekend and no one else has seen. One person has seen it. It's a soundtrack of one song, except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot.
I am not a fan of video games. I had to learn a lot. So this is the person that's getting backed. This video is publicly available to the internet, but the whole gaming industry just decided to back her up for God knows whatever reason.
About video games in the process of making this. And also video games, like I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads.
My point exactly. Growing up, women don't think about shooting people in their heads, decapitating people, stabbing people, like pulling someone's head and spine off of their body like Mortal Kombat. B- they say a good number of ladies think that is gruesome, but for the boy child, that's the peak. That is peak. I think I'll have a reaction video. This guy who was talking about Blade. Yeah, he was a 6 year old when he actually watched Blade 2. Yeah, then while he was that young, he actually watched that video so much that his father decided to lie to him and tell him they actually monitor how many times you watch a DVD, which was a straight up lie, because you can watch a DVD whichever times you like, as long as the DVD player is working, you can watch it. There are people who are watching this who have no idea what I'm talking about, because you never grew up with a DVD or a VCD, so you don't know what that is. It's like technically having a movie downloaded or inside your flash disk and you watching it. You can watch it as many times as you like. No one is monitoring you. Okay? So for her, she doesn't like chopping people's heads off, shooting people's heads off, stabbing people in the heart, beating up people to a pulp. Like, it's not made for her. She didn't grow up wanting this. She never thought about racing, like Formula One, NASCAR, MotoGP, yeah, Safari Rally. Talk about all that WRS. It wasn't in her. Like, this is not for you. Yeah.
It's just gross. So hence this is my response to that.
Yeah, Anita confirmed that she was not a gamer after all. In fact, in order to create this video series, she had no experience or knowledge in whatsoever. She would have to actually play video games herself for the first time ever. But I thought she said she was a gamer. Wasn't that the story she went with that led to her getting that $159,000 from donations to create her feminism series? How could she lie to us like that?
The reality of this lifelong involvement with video games isn't convenient for my detractors, so they try to construct a different narrative using whatever fabrications they can muster.
So
Yeah.
it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this.
I'm an expert on the depictions of women in video games.
I'm not a fan of video games.
In addition to playing games for most of my life, I've spent the last 3 years researching and examining the representations of women throughout the history of video games.
But again, this was who became the face of modern feminism and the spear point that would pierce the flesh of modern Western game development. In a way, Anita was about to become a modern Prometheus, but instead of giving humanity the ability to wield fire, she would replace that with feminism and ushering in an era of complete lunacy. You see, Anita would also, as seen here in this Kotaku article titled How She Wants to Change Video Games, that Anita would admit that she
Who are you changing the video games for? Who are you changing the video games for? That's actually what should have been. Women who didn't like video games, because ideally at the end of the day, she herself, even though she made the changes, she doesn't play. So it's not even for her. Mad.
was never a gamer in the first place. Despite the protection that she was given by the games industry, Anita would tell Kotaku in the interview the games that she played were casual. Stuff like Angry Birds, Mario Kart Wii. However, it was this part in this interview where Anita was about 3 years into changing the video games industry for the worse, where she would admit
It's been 3 years. So, 3 years in, you don't like it, but you're messing it up for the rest. Yeah, nothing serious,
this as seen here. If you asked me at the time, I would probably have said I wasn't a gamer, Anita said. Under her breath, she added, I don't even know if I want to say that now, but whatever. Interesting. So the woman who would irreversibly ruin video games admits in a random Kotaku article to the public, no less, that she was never a fan of video games really to begin with, in her own words. So then why, pray tell, are we still listening to what she even has to say? This is someone who made a whole video series that effectively could be surmised as man bad, woman good, the end pretty much. But the problem was that the games industry, despite knowing that Anita was kind of a fraud at this point, they kept her protected anyways. She was really their messiah, her message clear, and it led to many a company changing their hiring practices and creating a space where the typical game developers, that being men, were quickly becoming replaced with women, and people.
There's this guy who makes videos on YouTube. I don't know his name. I figured him out this past 3 months. He talks so heavy about, oh, the gaming industry has been feminized and all that. I don't know. Maybe I'll react to one of his videos. I'm not sure. But anyways, as we continue, he was on about how GTA 5 is going to be asked because of the feminism wave, the modernization and all that. That's why he actually sparked out and said that he's not going to be so much of a fan of GTA 6, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a booming. But we can't say that up until the Netflix will get to see these guys are hassles. They want you to pay for Netflix so that you can get a premiere of actually how GTA 6 is actually going to be looking like the gameplay itself. You have to have Netflix so that you can watch it. Mad thing. Corporates have decided they will kill you apart from removing the discs and telling you don't own your games. Man, get yourself a good machine, like a PC. If not a PC, a good desktop. For desktops, at least you can upgrade it with time. For PC, when you get that, maybe you will have upgrades, but they won't be as much as for desktops.
Identified as the entire kitchen sink at this point. From that same Kotaku article, as you can see here, Anita admits that she's actually repulsed by games like Call of Duty, God of War, or even Grand Theft Auto.
And also video games. Like, I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads, and it's just gross. So,
as a leading expert in this field, I'm regularly sought after for media commentary on gaming topics and hired by developers and publishers to consult on upcoming titles.
Claiming, as you also saw in that clip where she admitted that she's not a gamer in the first place, that she also finds it all disgusting, the gore and the violence part of it. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Now you know why you have ugly people in the gaming, like in the video games. Because let me tell you something. If we was to have a woman in a video game and the woman is a villain, I'd like her to be hot. Yeah. If I had to add women in my video games, I'd like the women to be goth and hot. Yeah. I want fat chicks. Fat chicks, nope. Big titty, yeah. Fat, nope. Thick, yeah. Yep. All these other things, if they're petite, yeah, I'm about that. If Latina, I am about that. The rest, I don't know about that. Ugly? Why? Man, they did things.
You're definitely a gamer, Anita, who doesn't like some of the most popular video game series in the world. Very cool to admit. But during one of Anita's presentations to the video games industry, she had a talk titled, as seen here, 8 Things Developers Can Do to Make Games Less Crappy for Women. One example she brings up is the game The Wonderful 101, where there's 7 colored coded superheroes that you can play as in the game. Anita claims that this game is sexist because the female hero is color coded as pink, because pink is for women. Anita calls this
Ah, you should just go around and ask girls, not even women, just ask girls, what's your favorite color?
Concept that developers should avoid as the Smurfette principle. The idea is that Smurfette in the Smurfs is the only female Smurf, if you don't know that. So she's singled out, obviously. So like the pink superhero in the Wonderful 101, they are also singled out.
On that note, apart from Smurfette being the only female, another thing that should be added is she was artificially made. Like she did not exist. There was no female Smurf. There has never been. She was just artificially made.
As well because they're color graded by a feminine-like color being pink. Maybe that's a valid argument, but either way, it wouldn't end here, of course, because Anita, during her presentation, which wasn't made public as far as I know in video format, so I can really only go off of what Kotaku is saying here, complained that other games during this time also didn't have many female playable characters or diverse body types. Games like Borderlands, however, she did praise that did start to bring in more female heroes, but she did say that games like Team Fortress 2 were bad examples of how to make games because every character playable in Team Fortress 2 is a man. Ironically though, Team Fortress 2, in case you don't know, is still played by thousands of people daily on Steam, whereas nobody watches Anita anymore. So the joke writes themselves that time. Anita would say more during this presentation, like is seen here. Fixing this is of course incredibly easy. Just give players more diverse options. Giving players more playable female characters is the first step toward female characters, like their male counterparts being defined more by who they are rather than simply by their gender. She would further say at least half of the options should be women, and really it would be great if it was more than half the options.
Nah, the amount of women aren't even playing that game. They simply aren't. Unless she's a fine Latina, so I'm looking at us every time I'm moving her around. Then yeah. At the end of the day, I was just reading a manhwa. Then while I was reading, there was this woman there. Okay, I wasn't reading. I was just reading the reviews before I started reading it. So apparently in chapter 2, the MC of the manhwa rapes the master. Is it the master or the daughter to the master? I think either of that. So while I'm scrolling the comments, this guy was like, man, I wasn't so pumped up about the MC raping that woman, but I'm okay with it because my thing be like that. Like 15 to 50 young guys think mature days. We go mature days
For women, and I know some people think I'm completely loony when I say that. Well, we already thought you're crazy. Unfortunately, the games industry would listen to Anita's words, as these days there's plenty of female.
By the way, if you want to do something, make sure you're loony. Just be as loony as possible. Yeah? And once you are as loony as possible, do it. Do it.
Characters, and in Sony's case, they went off the deep end, just erasing male heroes for female ones instead, franchise by franchise, as we all know. But Anita would also, as seen here, rally for game developers to make female characters that were less Victoria's Secret model-esque, as she puts it, and more diverse. Unironically, Anita would.
Why would I want to look? I want Victoria's Secret model, man. Whichever game I'm playing, that's what I want. That's what I'd be anticipating for. What are you telling me? What are you
sowing the seeds prior to Overwatch's release here, so that this carbon dates the speech to be somewhere in the 2014-2015 era of video games. But as we all know, this advice would lead to a lot of disasters. Essentially, Anita was demanding for a game like Concord to exist, which wouldn't actually come out for another 9 years post this interview. Whereas the games that would work, like Overwatch, were originally against the very ideas that Anita would be pushing for, and wow, that game's still playable, go figure. Meaning that she was wrong in her assumptions, because
sadly, she's slim, she's very pretty, but she's campaigning for not her. Yeah, I think she's cute. Yeah, I don't know about her, whatever. If maybe I get to interact with her, I get to know this is a character. Maybe she's going to go from cute to okay. Yeah. But yeah, it's sad, man. It's sad.
Anyone who believed or followed what Anita did would result in millions of dollars being wasted for seemingly no reason. All because they thought they had to listen to a woman who openly admitted that she never played video games or cared about them to begin with. This was all just a grift, a ploy to, pierce something that she knew that she could make money off of if she tried. Anita would also bring up a scene here that female characters needed outfits that would not emphasize their bodies, saying their chests would jiggle where they.
One thing that I realized recently, I started playing Tomb Raider Game of the Year 2013. When you just start the game after you've escaped the cave, then you've gotten your bow and arrow. Man, this guy has made her breast jiggle, man. I was there and I was like, how comes I've never seen this? I was actually playing it in the screen on my TV. Yeah, it's not a big TV. It's sizable. So when I'm looking at it on my computer, I never noticed it. But when I watched it keenly on the screen, I was like, these guys really did it. Like this thing, they actually made that game for male characters. And the fact that when she was about to be raped, that is the actual moment that she actually turns to be, what's this? She actually turns and she becomes what she needs to become so that she can handle the rest of the game. It actually was on point. I think that's what made it Game of the Year. The fact that we saw her character development. Yeah. Aside from that, have you ever sat down and watched Women Olympics? All the females characters, they wear outfits that showcase their body. They don't hide their body. They have an option to either pick cover up or show. 97% to 98% it's show their skin. So I wonder why she will be saying this is actually how games should be made, when we've actually seen when women given their choices, this is actually what they decide to do.
Would move when men's parts wouldn't. Hilariously, as we now know in the future, Anita's claims would obviously fail because games like Overwatch, which she was openly criticizing here years ago, would end up embracing their more ideal female body types with plenty of swimsuit-like outfits. And every new hero added to Overwatch in the last year or so has been nothing but idealized, oftentimes South Asian women. For example, Overwatch just added Demon to the game, another female character who is neither ugly nor fat. Go figure, and games like Marvel Rivals have popularized the idea of giving ideal outfits for both their male and the female heroes. I mean, Rivals is littered in scandalous outfits for everybody. You can put Punisher in a Speedo just as much as Black Widow in a skin-tight bathing suit. Even games like Fortnite, of all things, recently have also added skins like Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and even Batman in bathing suits, revealing their bodies even more. I like to think that the rise of the culture war, which did stem from Gamergate, and the direct refusal of Anita Sarkeesian's teachings have actually led us to where we are today, for better and worse. You would not be having the Western games industry to some capacity self-correcting itself if the people who pushed back against Anita and her kind did the way that they did. The truth was that what Anita was advocating for would not work in the long term. Every decision she made for the games industry has led to a net negative reaction. Games like Concord existing, Dust.
Because number one, you'll realize that all the people who play games, a good majority of them are not women. A good majority of them. Not a good, like the majority. Women are just a minor percentage in that. And the women who actually play, they are good. The ones who are actually like in depth about it.
Born, or even Spider-Man 2 with its humiliation of Peter Parker, are all games that were designed to appease to someone like Anita in mind, uplift the female heroes, bring in diverse body types and people, and sideline the white male heroes with more diversity, and if the character is white, in Spider-Man's case that is, you have to publicly humiliate him at every given moment imaginable because the wrong people liked your previous game too much.
I told you about them humiliating Spider-Man. Like, he was with all the flaws. Stupid things just happening to him. It was just bad. Actually didn't play it. I watched my boy play it and I was like, what in the world is even that?
And that's a problem. Yes, I know Anita didn't work on Spider-Man 2, but she has unfortunately worked on plenty of games and ruined them already. Bungie, for example, which was her first exposure to the industry, has gone on to become a shell of themselves, and that's putting it lightly. All of their idealized character models.
So basically you're telling me all the money that was put in her ideas went down the drain because guys didn't like it, guys didn't watch it. Yeah, that is what I am getting.
Were gone. They ruined their characters and appeased simply to make people like Anita happy. Does anyone even remember the character called Nimbus in the Lightfall expansion for Destiny 2? Nimbus, in case you don't know, was a gender-fluid warrior riding like a surfboard that had a horrific design that Destiny fans just rejected outright. So much.
By the way, I haven't watched Fantastic Four. I saw that they replaced the Silver Surfer with a woman actress. Okay. But all the aura that the Silver Surfer had from the Fantastic Four that I watched back then, although it wasn't that much, all that aura that the Silver Surfer farmed, I don't know if she farmed, I don't know if she farmed that aura in the new Fantastic Four that's currently or finished airing on the cinemas before Spider-Man kicked in. But the amount of backlash that I saw it had, and it didn't get that much praise or people going to watch it. Yeah. So I am very curious and I'm like, okay, how?
So that after the Lightfall campaign came out, Nimbus was pretty much forgotten about by Bungie. That character hasn't shown up since as far as I know. I mean, I beat the Final Shape expansion, and I don't recall Nimbus even showing up to help the Guardians, so Bungie knew that Anita's influence, even on their games, was becoming a net negative. And looking at the absolute state of Destiny, Marathon, and Bungie, if anything, Anita's teachings rose through that studio like it was a terminal cancer eating away anything that was good. Now Bungie's currently on life support. Their games are pretty much dead, or soon to be in Marathon's case, and they have no one to blame but themselves, and I guess Anita Sarkeesian. There is also another PlayStation game developer that really advocated and took Anita's teachings to heart, that being Neil Druckmann, the guy who wrote The Last of Us and Part 2. So much so that Neil Druckmann,
as much as The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't that bad, it was bad. Like, it was bad. In comparison to the Part 1, Part 2 was bad.
publicly admitted on stage while presenting an award to Anita Sarkeesian that her work influenced how he changed The Last of Us and the future games in Naughty Dog's design philosophy. Don't believe me? Okay, watch this.
Unfortunately, the Kickstarter also triggered a rather large online intimidation and harassment campaign aimed directly at her. Her social media outlets were attacked with varying degrees of hateful and misogynistic comments, imagery, and even threats. Instead of ignoring the attacks, she documented and made them public, exposing the kind of vile internet behavior that is often directed to women and all too often dismissed. The attacks brought further attention to the Kickstarter, and backers came to its support in droves. By the end of its run, the Kickstarter netted roughly $159,000 from 7,000 backers. Anita has since become a spokesperson for the dangers of online harassment and gave a TED Talk that has close to 500,000 views. Her story has been covered in publications like the New York Times and The Guardian. After months of research and work, the first video of Tropes vs. Women was released on March 7th, 2013. It has garnered over 1.8 million views. Game reviews and editorials constantly reference her work when discussing the treatment of women in games. Many developers now have a greater understanding of character tropes and the shortcomings they can lead to. I know for me, Anita's work was highly influential in my approach to writing for The Last of Us, greatly improving its story. With the amount of harassment she still...
Sadly, I don't think it improved the story of Last of Us Part 2, especially the other part where it was focused on the macho feminine woman who was, I think she was lesbian, that girl. I think that side, that's the side that actually made Last of Us Part 2 meh. And the fact that they made Ellie a lesbian.
Sees on a daily basis, including some today. I've often wondered, why keep doing this? And having discussed games with her on several occasions now, the answer became abundantly clear. She loves video games.
So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this.
She's so passionate about them that she feels they're worth fighting for. It is my honor to present the Game Developers Ambassador Award to Anita Sarkeesian.
It's become very clear that Anita...
So, to be very clear, yeah, for you to be an ambassador of whatever, in this day and age, you needn't be an expert in it. You just need to have enough conviction, speak your mind about whatever weird ideas that you have, and you'll be good. You don't need to be that much of an expert. Just say you are, but you don't need to be one. And say it with conviction.
influenced Neil so much, and he literally just gave her an award, since The Last of Us Part 2 would also eventually embrace all the qualities and teachings that Anita would endorse for modern video game writing. And as we all know, Part 2, compared to Part 1, sold far less as well. Because the reality is what Anita Sarkeesian believed is not economically viable. Instead, all it has done is change the games industry into something it was never meant to become. And because of that, thousands of jobs have been lost, billions have been spent trying to enforce these ideas, only for most modern game developers to then realize that the old ways, ironically, have always been the best. To make video games either way, to create games that are free of political agenda has and always will be the greatest way to create art. It doesn't mean that politics can't exist within modern media, no, but the clear distinction here is that if you incorporate politics into your games, it's very important to ensure that those political structures are only things that exist within the confines of that world. A good example is The Witcher's world. You know, the Nilfgaardian Empire, they're oppressive, but Nilfgaard is not real. It's not a place that exists in our material world. The same way the Shinra Power Electric Company in Final Fantasy VII is a world-sucking business empire that destroys the planet, obviously, in which Final Fantasy VII takes place in. But it is not an allegory for, say, any one company. It is instead a unique entity within its own world, which is the point. The problem with today's media that they continue to forget is that people want escapism. They want to play something that doesn't remind them of how stupid the real world.
Yeah, I was watching this video sometime back on, I think it's YouTube. I don't know. I'm not much of, I can technically say I've watched this and I've watched that because I don't watch so much. There's this video that this guy was talking about back in the back in the 2000s. Exhibit had this show, it's called Pimp My Ride. So Pimp My Ride was basically Exhibit going to different people, them showing him how their car is worn out, rusted. So MTV or whomever, I think I'll do a reaction to his video. They actually made cars for these people. Oh, what work do you do? I work at a finance whatever. I'm in finance whatever. So they look for something that's in lines with finance, then revamp your car. Your car was worn out. Sometimes it could move, sometimes it couldn't. Sometimes the door was could open. Sometimes you could get inside the boot to get to your car. You are an ice cream vendor, then they make something in matters regarding ice cream to fit your car. You don't want to get off of work, then get to your car to remind yourself of work. You want to be somewhere home, somewhere within your fantasy, somewhere within something that you can say like, this is me. That's what I want. That's what a majority of guys want. They want to be in that fantasy, not the same old boring routine.
Is. Anita's goal, however, with her teachings and talks was in direct opposition of that. She instead wants everyone to be constantly reminded of every little thing all the time, to never be able to escape or enjoy something where they can, in a sense, differ it from the real world. Every fantasy world, no matter how removed, must be a representation of something happening in our world. Every bad guy must be an amalgamation of something that Anita disagrees with, right? Whether that be the current president, some other YouTuber, or whatever else it is. This is why games like Dustborn, for example, are a clear thing of what Anita Sarkeesian would actually want more of to be made. Dustborn, in case you don't know, is about a group of people of color fighting a right-wing oppressive government using their voices. I'm not even kidding.
Oh my goodness. Fighting the oppressors using their voices. Using their voices. I was in a couple of protests. Yeah, you don't use your voice to fight. Your voice can only do so much.
That's actually what it's about. It's the exact sort of game that Anita would love to see more of. Unfortunately for her, such games are not economically viable, and they only exist to further expand the concept to being nothing more than thinly veiled propaganda. It's not like players have a problem with female characters either. It just comes down more so to the idea that people are sick of female characters becoming these avenues for the writers involved in order to talk down to us. I have no issue with the fact that Nintendo, for example, has in the last few years made Zelda herself more prominent. Zelda, for example, is the main character in the Hyrule Warriors game Age of Imprisonment, which takes place between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. That's cool. Zelda has also gotten her own spin-off title called Echoes of Wisdom on the Nintendo Switch. Again, I have no issue with that, and I actually think that Nintendo should make more Zelda games where Zelda herself is playable. I have zero issue there at all. The problem is, however, when other companies like Sony PlayStation start erasing their male heroes for female ones instead of just making new franchises. And again,
That's the game I was talking about. She was ugly. Man. Even this series, it was actually a good series, but they made the girl ugly. Is it the Blue Samurai? Something in the lines of Samurai. She could have been hot. She was mid to ugly. But she wasn't fat. At least she wasn't fat.
Yet I firmly believe that this design philosophy is directly tied to the involvement of Anita Sarkeesian and what she's done to the video games industry. For every positive effect she may have had, her influence has created 50 other problems that now need fixing. And her influence was left unchecked for so long that to this day, the problems still persist. I wouldn't even joke when I say that she was one of the progenitors of the demise of Western games media as a net total.
Yeah, because you can see, even today, is it Marvel? Is it Marvel or Disney? Some company. Let me just confirm before I start saying things right out of my mouth. Purchased Marvel. So it's Disney. Yeah, Disney bought Marvel. There's something. Wait. Um. Marvel. No, Universal. It's not Universal. Warner Bros. Ah. What was this? was either Netflix or something. Oh yeah, this is it. Warner Bros. To be bought by Paramount. I think Warner Bros. Are the ones in charge of Disney. I think so, or Marvel. Initial agreement December 2025. Film studios assets to Netflix. Okay. Paramount bidded for hire. So the value of the company of the Warner Bros. Increased. Yeah. So Paramount, with the higher bid, total enterprise value bid for the entire company. So they terminated the Netflix agreement and accepted Paramount's offer. So Paramount are the ones who are purchasing Warner Bros. So CBS television networks with Warner Bros, DC, Harry Potter, HBO, cable, whatever, all this will be under Paramount. It's DC, not Marvel. I thought it was Marvel. So maybe we'll expect better movies from DC in comparison to the trash that we got called Supergirl. Yeah. Anyways, I digress. We'll go back to whatever we were on here. I wouldn't blame the Western games. They don't really care about the people who are playing. Yeah, they just see them as money bags. So I wouldn't blame them in whatever the case is. To be honest, I don't even know who this Zoe Queen is. The fact that he even showed Zoe Queen and he was like, yes, that's Zoe Queen. So she's a video game developer and an activist. Okay. I don't know her, to be honest. So she's spoken United Nations, US Congress regarding online abuse, digital harassment. Okay. That's Zoe Quinn. When was this video created? Let me just see. 6 days ago. Also, it's fairly recent. So the sad news is this is not helping any business. It is not helping any business. And since you're paying so much for quote unquote consultation to make your business better, yeah, good for you. So number one, whichever business that you're doing, this is like more of business, because we've seen it with Anita and it's working, and it's worked for more than a decade. Yeah. For business, but make sure you technically making the business more profitable, or the person who's doing the business, they're seeing value in whatever it is that you're doing. Show them that there's this problem. Show them, even if you've made that problem. For example, you can perfectly live well without drinking coffee. But this guy is sat down, found a way to peddle coffee to you. Now you can't live without coffee. And coffee actually promotes pollution, depending if you're using the cups that come with. Yeah. Find a problem, pitch it to the organization or wherever. Be as convincing as possible. Rack up as much money as you can. That's, that's true. That is totally true. I don't really have an issue with white supremacy being trifled down on. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But as long as the characters are badly written, or the story just doesn't have isn't captivating. Yeah, story isn't captivating, writers suck, it'll make the game suck. Definitely will make the game suck. You can't even compare the games back in the 2000s and the current games that we have today. It's bad. Yeah. That's technically true, because number one, if you guys can agree on doing something, you'll make sure you get to attain that specific target or that specific goal. For that Black Panther, these guys were, we want this in, we want this in, we don't want this in. It's kind of like when Speed was coming to Kenya. A good number of people were like, "Don't take Speed to the ghetto. Don't show Speed, whatever, whatever." And I was like, "Huh? All of you influencers or social media, whatever you call them, they call themselves. I don't know what they call themselves. Influencers, whatever. They were not in par with each other. Okay. So if these guys were not in par with each other, and you tell them, you're supposed to do this, you're in trouble." Aye, review bombing and refunding. So this, after it became known that Anita Sarkeesian is mentioned in the credits, is perfectly rational. Oh my god. Wow, people are just not having it if it's her. So ideally, this is the thing, yeah. Guys are getting exhausted. Just taking money from people and not making anything better. Nothing. So I completely get. sadly, most of the dialogue that I've had, not so much of a fan. Not at all. Dialogue is trash to a good number of video games that are out there, and a good number of people haven't ventured into games that are not AAA. Yeah, even GTA 5 online, the stories that the missions that you go to, they have been horrific, like bad. Michael Jackson bad. So imagine this. You see how Sony decided we're killing we're killing physical media. It's gotten a big backslash. They kept quiet. It was bad. Okay? It was bad. Now, this Battlefield, it was so bad that EA themselves had to say, if you don't like, don't buy. Yes, they try to quote unquote say if you don't like women, but it's not about women. It's just how the whole thing is. It's just how the whole thing is. Yep. Yep. Okay, that's just sad. Like it's so sad. Considering she's kind of cute. kind of cute. The fact that you actually go out there and say that I am quote unquote marrying myself, that's just sad, man. Maybe I should do a whole something on feminism, but you guys have heard so much. Maybe if it comes up on a video that I'm reacting, I'll address it. But it's sad the fact that she actually said that I am marrying herself. It showed that she's technically feeling lonely, and she wanted this thing called marriage, but the way she's moving does not allow that. It's sad, man. That is pure business. Because number one, if you're by yourself and you have cats and you know that this is my market, man, you can be just putting adverts targeting them, emotional manipulation. You would be making like that video. Profits. Yeah, that's technically all that I've seen today. And yeah, video games have been ruined. Video games have been ruined. She was fine. Now she's not. That's the state that we are all in. It's bad, man. It's bad. But we have to survive in the long run, right? Anyways, I